Amsterdam, out in theaters, written and directed by David O. Russell, known to casual audiences from movies such as Fighter, Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, or Joy, and to the people more invested in the movie-making world from being apparently a very shady character. He has admitted to sexually assaulting his own niece, he's been abusive to people on his sets, both actors and crews, famously overworking people and acting like a total shit, almost got into a fist fight with George Clooney at one point, abused Amy Adams, physically assaulted Christopher Nolan at a party in Hollywood, and yet for some reason continues to find work in the movie industry, and even more surprisingly continues to draw fantastic actors to continue working with him on his films. Perhaps it's because they tend to often get awards nominations, especially the acting ones, but in any case one has to wonder. Amsterdam is no exception in terms of the level of stellar cast. Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Alessandro Nivola, Andrea Riseborough, Anya Taylor-Joy, Chris Rock, Michael Shannon, Mike Myers, Taylor Swift, Timothy Olyphant, Zoe Saldana, Rami Malek, and Robert De Niro. Stellar, absolutely stellar. The film is a costume piece, taking place in 1933 with an extended flashback to 1918 as well, when the three main characters of the film, a doctor played by Bale, a lawyer played by Washington, and a traveling nurse/artist played by Robbie, all meet randomly in Europe, engulfed by the Great War. They go to Amsterdam afterwards and live their best lives there for a time, until they are forced to go their separate ways. In 1933, they will be reunited again in New York around a mysterious case of murder. A general who was the former superior of Christian Bale's character in the army dies, followed by his daughter quite quickly. In trying to evade the police and the goons who seem responsible, the trio will have to figure out what is actually going on, who is behind the increasingly more complicated and political plot, and stop it in time. And apparently that plot and some of the characters are loosely based on real-life history, but I don't want to spoil the specifics so that you can enjoy the film. Well, if it is possible to enjoy the film, because I have to say, to me, it was a massive disappointment. Its main problem is that it is wildly unfocused in terms of the plot, the tone, and even the individual scenes. The plot is meandering between the bigger conspiracy story with the murders and so on, and the smaller personal stories of the main three characters. And the connection between those two types is largely just surface level, and I never felt that any of the stuff that's going on in the larger scheme really impacts these secondary personal stories. They feel disjointed in this way. In terms of the tone, the movie seems not to be able to decide whether it wants to be a fun caper filled with overdrawn characters and a kinetic feel to it, or a more serious piece, a murder mystery that also has a lot to say about politics and criticizes the ultra-rich and powerful. And this tonal mismatch is evident even in the performances. The two best ones in the film for me are Christian Bale and Robert De Niro. And it's fascinating because when you watch the two of them, it's like each of them thinks they're making a completely different movie. Bale is more humorous, bit of a caricature, exaggerating his character quite a lot, and would fit perfectly if the movie was more comedic as a whole. And De Niro, meanwhile, is playing it completely straight, acting as if he was in a prestige drama, historical drama. Now, both of those performances on their own are excellent, but when you see the two of them together, it is just jarring. And it's the best example of how the movie sort of half-heartedly tries to do two different things at once, but doesn't actually commit to either of them, and ends up just feeling pretty strange. I also thought that the pacing wasn't good. There are many times where the movie just drags very slowly. The plot mechanics don't entirely make sense. Some of the things seem to be just pure nonsense, like De Niro having a conversation with the sort of conspiracy messenger in the presence of the main trio, who the conspiracy at that point knows very well who they are and that they need to be careful around them. At one point there's also this big plot twist, which doesn't really feel like a plot twist, because it was kind of obvious right from the get-go that this was going to happen. It's like they do this big reveal, and I was thinking, is this a reveal? We knew this, right? Didn't we know this? Like, it feels as if the movie believes that it is misdirecting the audience, but it really isn't. Some of the scenes don't feel like their main purpose was to be a part of a larger whole as well, but rather to showcase a particular actor's ability, as if, okay, now we have a scene where Rami Malek is being a good actor, and that doesn't necessarily serve the movie as a whole. I also want to say that as much as I defended John David Washington in some of his previous movies, I do agree that in this one he seems like a charisma vacuum. He just does nothing for me. I thought he was like a wooden plank. I do want to say that the film looks gorgeous. It was shot by Emmanuel Lubezki and is wonderfully alive in the purely visual sense, even if the other stuff drags it down. The lighting, the costumes, the sets, all fantastic. I like that a lot. But yeah, as much as I would have loved to also like the rest of the film, I didn't. I think it's a meandering, unfocused, even kind of boring mess, which wastes an unbelievable amount of great